Nobody should be shot for their opinions, even though...
I keep saying now, I can say if he was.
How I feel about the death of Charlie Kirk is less important than the game that's now going to begin.
Why has his apparent murder prompted such an extraordinary outpouring?
As though there's any chance he wasn't murdered. Wait a minute.
Nobody should ever be killed over views or words. It's just completely unacceptable.
Do I sound... I mean, obviously I agree with every single syllable of what you've said, but do we not need to be sure that he was before we say that?
What other possible motivation logically is there?
I suspect it wasn't from an angry ex or something like that.
It was motivated by who Charlie Kirk was, what he stood for, what he said, his ideas. I may be wrong. Time will tell. Regarding his death, I'll share my thoughts on the end. But I think this is what he would want, to get straight into it.
Why is there this already frenzied attempt to pretend that they know what happened here?
Because we have two eyes and we can see.
I agreed with certain things he said.
Like what?
Other things, family values, promoting bringing up children in a safe and stable environment.
That's fairly... I don't think anybody's in favour of unstable environments, are they?
He really cares more about not how we got here. No, it's about what Charlie Kirk said about Taylor Swift and her husband.
I think he said... Did he say that Taylor Swift should submit to her husband at some point?
Yeah, that's one of the things he said, which I don't agree with.
And notice that he doesn't actually read the quotes.
A couple of things that have already been pointed out include his observations, his recorded observations, that death is the price you pay for the gun laws that he very enthusiastically approved of.
All he was saying is that there's no perfect system. There will be people that abuse it, just like freedom of speech. If we have freedom of speech, there will always be consequences. There's no perfect system. Winston Churchill, democracy is the worst form of government except for all the others. There's no perfect system. That's it. That's all he was saying.
Let me read you a few texts just to highlight what I'm doing today.
And listen to what the people writing in are saying.
The first is from Samuel. You literally called a racist and intentionally divisive person courageous. You can't make this up. Right, Samuel.
People are openly applauding his death.
Des writes, I love you, James, but if you actually knew about Kirk or were a black, Latino or gay American afraid to walk the streets, you'd be a lot less liberal about his death.
And then the last person does point out the game that he's playing.
And Angela writes, what you're doing is really wrong, in my opinion. If you were shot dead, presumably for your political views, would you want a right-wing American radio talk show host to ask Americans to ring in with their opinions of your views and paraphrase what you have said? It is just wrong. Stop it. So, I mean, all three of those people listening to exactly the same radio programme and arriving at those incredibly contradictory conclusions. A couple of messages early on this hour suggesting that I am somehow pleased about this terrible killing. That's projection, mate. I won't read you messages out. I just want you to reflect upon what you've said and why you've said it. What you are acknowledging there is that if somebody from the other side of the political divide, and I'm still not entirely clear where Charlie Kirk sat, for which I do apologise, I should probably know.
Yet you just characterised his statements that you have written down in your notebook.
But what you're saying when you suggest that you can hear glee in my voice or anything other than sadness at the killing and confusion at the character, what you're doing is projecting how you would feel if somebody you disagree with politically were to be killed.
This exposes your game.
But given that he lived and tragically died very much in public debate, in the public space, immersed in public discourse, it would be ridiculous and absurd not to explore what his contributions to public discourse were.
Are you going to point out any of the positives? Why are you only pointing out things that you don't like? If you're really just trying to explore his contributions.
And if you don't like the evidence of what his contributions to public discourse were, that's for you to deal with. That's for you to work through.
He immediately established the frame at the very beginning as though Charlie Kirk really, I don't understand why anyone really knew about him, because all I saw of him online, the only time I saw him online was him getting owned by students.
I have been surprised by the scale of the response. I knew the name. I have seen some clips. I wouldn't necessarily have been able to say, that is Charlie Kirk. I would have said, that is the guy who I have seen getting kind of owned by young students.
Seriously? That's one hell of a frame. All right.
Some of the pronouncements that this chap has made in the past, particularly with reference to, I would suggest off the top of my head, homosexuality and black women's intelligence.
He says off the top of his head as he looks down and reads it off the script that was prepared to do this exact plan. Why don't you read the actual quotes? Why don't we actually look at it in context?
I don't even know. I can't even begin to speculate. Well, I am speculating on it. I can't even begin to reach conclusions.
To him, the problem is really what Charlie Kirk represented, which is the same thing that probably motivated that shooter. We can just deduce that. It doesn't take a leap. This morning, Steven Crowder received a tip from a source.
All cartridges have engraved wording on them, expressing transgender and anti-fascist ideology.
That has since been confirmed. So this whole guy's narrative just blew up.
What's the word that I want? Why has this apparent assassination stopped the traffic on this side of the Atlantic and beyond?
They disguise it as though they are being responsible by not drawing any conclusions.
I don't know that is the thing we should be focusing on, but it's the thing that has boiled my brain the most this morning. As someone who commentates upon current affairs for a living.
As though you're a fool to apply critical thinking to this and connect the dots logically.
And being bombarded from all sides by people who haven't got a Scooby-Doo what happened or who did it or why, expressing absolute certainty of what this represents and how it's proof of some enormous, broad truth.
So let me get this straight. So it's impossible to deduce anything about what motivated this act. So you're going to spend the next 20 minutes pointing out how bad Charlie Kirk was.
We don't even know whether it's political. I want to keep stressing this point, but of course...
And then they pivot immediately back to, and this is awful, and compassion.
This is a 31-year-old man with 2 little children. And if that doesn't touch you at all, then you really need to give your head a wobble.
He knows perfectly well that this was a political assassination. And right here, he slips up and admits it.
Indeed, even try and turn it into some opportunity to attack the left, some of whom, the idiots, will not be offering unequivocal condemnation and sympathy for an act of political violence, for a political assassination.
There's something very disturbing about the fact that he died on a college campus where these kind of conversations and thinking should be occurring. What we need next is for people without followings that are not public figures to step up and continue on. For the secret scholars to no longer be secret, to have the conversations. If everyday people step up, they can't stop that. And in that way, Charlie Kirk will live on.